Good evening, everyone. Today I'll be presenting an ethical analysis of the Big Dig tunnel collapse in Boston. This incident is an important example of how engineering decisions, oversight, responsibilities, and material selections directly affect public safety. My name is Jason De Jesus, and this presentation is for ethics in engineering. The Big Dig was one of the largest and most complex infrastructure projects ever completed in the United States. However, in 2006, part of the tunnel ceiling collapsed, resulting in a fatality and a major public investigation. In this presentation, I'll explain the technical cause of the failure, the stakeholders involved, and the ethical responsibilities that were overlooked. I will also discuss what could have been done differently to prevent this tragedy, and what lessons we can take from it today as future engineers. The Big Dig project was designed to reroute Boston's Central Highway into a series of underground tunnels. It involved tight urban space, custom construction methods, and extremely high public expectations. Because of the project's size, many organizations were involved, and the work was divided across multiple engineering and contracting groups. With complex coordination like this, clear responsibility and communication are critical. In July of 2006, several concrete ceiling panels inside the I-90 connector tunnel unexpectedly fell onto a passing car. Tragically, this resulted in the death of a passenger, Milena del Valle. The collapse shocked the public because the tunnel had only been open for a few years. This was not a case of an old infrastructure failing. This was a failure from the very beginning. Investigators determined that the ceiling panels were suspended using steel rods anchored into the concrete with epoxy. The epoxy used in the application slowly deformed over time under constant load, a behavior called creep. As the adhesive weakened, the anchors gradually pulled out of the ceiling because there was no redundancy in the design. Only a few anchors loosened, the entire system failed. In other words, the material was used in a way that it was never meant to perform for long term. Now, this failure involved multiple stakeholders. The Massachusetts Turnpike Authority oversaw the project. Bechtel and Parsons Brickerhoff managed it. Power Fasteners supplied the epoxy, and several contractors installed the system. But beyond all of these groups, the most important stakeholder was the public. Thousands of people drove through that tunnel every day, believing it was safe. Engineers are responsible for protecting public safety, not just meeting deadlines or budgets. The main ethical failure here is what the risks and warning signs were not communicated clearly. Some engineers and inspectors raised their concerns about anchor performance, but their concerns were not documented or acted on. Ethical engineering requires transparency, honesty, and accountability, especially when people's lives are at stake. The collapse damaged public trust, not just in Boston, but across the entire field of civil engineering. There were large financial settlements and expensive repairs, but the most significant impact was the loss of life, something that cannot be compensated or undone. This event reminded the country that engineering failures don't happen in isolation. They affect families, communities, and public confidence. To prevent failures like this, several important practices should be followed. First, materials must be tested under the actual load and conditions that they will experience long term. Second, critical systems should always have redundancy so that one failure does not cause a collapse. And finally, inspection and review must be continuous, not just during construction, but throughout the entire life of the structure. The Big Dig tunnel collapse teaches us that engineering is not only technical, it is deeply ethical. Every decision we make affects the safety and well-being of others. As future engineers, we must commit to prioritizing safety, communicating clearly, and taking responsibility for the systems we design. When we approach engineering with integrity and caution, we help prevent tragedy like this from ever happening again. Thank you very much. Have an excellent evening to each and every one of you.